Over an 80-year period, I've traveled literally 1 million miles to curate over 1 million mementos for the Sports Immortals collection.
Dad, it seems the 1970s was your decade. The Steelers won 4 Super Bowls, the Pirates won 2 World Series, and you got some mammoth collections that you acquired to add to the Sports Immortals collection. So take us to your trip to California and how you ended up acquiring over 100,000 boxing items for the Sports Immortals collection.
Tommy Farmer was a famous trainer. Manuel Ortiz was a boxing champion that he trained and managed. And he also was the head of the boxing guild. But most of all, he had the largest boxing collection ever assembled. His whole house was like a museum. And I knew after James J. Jeffries died that he had acquired all of Jeffries' mementos along with all the souvenirs were in Jeffries' training center called Jeffries Boxing Barn. And I would call Tommy at least once a year about trying to acquire something from James J. Jeffries, and he would tell me, Joel, I appreciate your calling, but I don't buy, I don't trade, I don't sell. And this went on for like 7 years. I was out in California to do a feature on the Sports Immortals collection, and I found myself at Hollywood and Vine, and I remembered that Tommy Farmer lived near Hollywood and Vine. I got out Tommy Farmer's number, dialed him up, and an old-time boxer by the name of Sid Marks answered the phone. I introduced myself, and he said, well, you know, Tommy's wife died, and he's kind of in depression. And I said, well, I'm out in California, and I'm probably about a couple blocks away. And he said, well, come on over. About 10 minutes later, I was knocking on Tommy's door. Sid let me in, and we sat down, and we were talking. And the collection, it was mind-boggling. And I'm talking to Sid Marks, and I said, Tommy's got the largest boxing collection, but he never wanted to part with anything. He then proceeded to tell me, we're selling the collection to Joe DiMaggio in San Francisco on the wharf next to his restaurant. So I told him, I said, Sid, if you don't mind me asking, how much is Joe paying for the collection? And he told me, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 25% more than Joe's giving you. He took out a quarter and started tapping it on the glass table, and he said, put the money on the table and you could start packing. Took 3 people, 2 days, about 100 crates to fly back to Pittsburgh. That's how extensive the boxing collection was.
So you were only going to visit him to acquire something from James J. Jeffries. You weren't even planning on getting anything from John L. Sullivan or James J. Corbett, Jack Johnson. That was just a complete bonus for you, right?
It was like fate, like I appeared on the scene at the proper moment.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Let's see some of these gems that you acquired, starting here. It says punching bag used by James J. Corbett in 1889, and here's a picture of Corbett using the punching bag.
Like I say, the whole house was like a boxing museum.
This is a program from Nelson Gans from 1906.
2 of the greatest champions of all time, battling Nelson and Joe Gans.
And this is another unique program from Burns Squires with an autographed note from Tommy Burns.
And Tommy Burns' signature by itself is so valuable, let alone a whole note in his own handwriting.
I know people often ask me what is the oldest item in the collection, and seems you acquired this in the Farmer collection as well.
I mean, his collection dated back to
1586.
1586.
A boxing book.
And it spanned the spectrum, you know, from 1586 to, you know, Bruton's rules on boxing, you name it, he had it.
Well, you know I'm a cloth guy, so this is pretty exciting for me. Jack Johnson's fight-worn boxing trunks. That would have been amazing to acquire that. I'd love to have seen your face.
And he had numerous items from Jack Johnson's.
One story that I always find fascinating is my grandfather, your father, was a huge boxing fan, and he attended a lot of different boxing matches. And I remember you telling me that he was actually at the fight where Jeffries fought Johnson.
He won Newsboy of the Year award, and he got tickets to travel out to see the Jack Johnson Jeffries championship fight. The white man was trying to get the title back from Jack Johnson, the first black man to win the heavyweight championship of the world. So there was a lot of bigotry involved and a lot of notoriety, and my dad came back with numerous stories that they passed on to me, and I passed on to you later, and I remember you doing a report in school, in college for it. And this is a confession letter where Jack Johnson is admitting to throwing the fight with Jess Willard to avoid going to jail.
Part of the problem that Jack Johnson faced was he was a black male that preferred dating white women, which at the time was not acceptable.
Kind of taboo, so to speak, and it kind of framed him in a Mann Act, which was a misdemeanor for crossing a state line with a white woman, and
they wanted to arrest him, right? And then this fight was in Cuba.
Yeah, and he fled the country to avoid being arrested.
Talking about broad categories of items, what do we have here?
Henry Armstrong, one of the great champions of all time. Boxers back in his time didn't make much money, and these were his personal shoe shine brushes that he sent to his manager, Eddie Mead.
I don't want to pass up this because I know this is a very unique piece right here, and it looks like there's a little piece of film.
First time film was taken of a fight. This is James J. Corbett versus Bob Fitzsimmons, a medal from the fight and the program from the fight itself.
1897.
1897.
Wow.
This is a great Jeffries Johnson piece, a newspaper from the famous battle here as well from 1910.
Mm-hmm.
And then this Jack Root, first light heavyweight champion of the world. That's a great letter that Root sent to Tommy Farmer.
July 11th, 1939, he was trying to get into Czechoslovakia, and they wouldn't give him a permit because Hitler and the Germans were squeezing the Czechs out. And he goes on to mention that, "I'll be glad when public enemy number one Hitler gets his due, and I will be able to throw my hat in the ring and help with the cause. Sincerely, Jack Root."
Yeah.
Pretty cool letter. These are two of my favorite items.
This is the actual Jack Johnson fight-worn gloves autographed by all these different champions. Joe Louis, James J. Braddock, Dempsey, Tunney, Jeffries, Max Beer, Jess Willard, Primo Carnera, Jack Johnson. I added Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes and Joe Frazier later on.
Yeah, these ones also have Alexis Arguello, Barney Ross, Billy Conn, Lou Ambers.
All great champions.
Yeah, these autographs are amazing.
But I think this was really two of the greatest items in this collection, and they originally came from a famous boxing writer by the name of Doc Almey. But these were the first gloves used by John L. Sullivan, and there was an outside chance that these were the gloves used the night before the famous bout. First time gloves were ever used in a heavyweight championship fight. James J. Corbett versus John L. Sullivan. But the night before, they put on a little exhibition, and these could be the gloves that both Sullivan and Corbett used. This big glove was autographed by over 100 different boxing champions dating back to the early 1900s.
And a lot of those signatures were already on the glove, and then you took it around to get more recent boxers to sign it, correct?
Muhammad Ali signed that glove twice, Joe Frazier, Larry Holmes. So I kept on adding to it.
I remember a funny photo that you have of me as a baby, and you propped me up on the glove and took a picture of it.
Yeah, I think the glove was bigger than you.
Yeah, it was. It was. You went for James J. Jeffries, and what do you got in front of you right there?
I could build a James J. Jeffries museum with what I came back with, but this is the trophy that was presented to James J. Jeffries in 1938. That just happens to be the year I was born as well, so it's a little sentimental feature, for me. On this trophy is all the different greats who contributed to giving this to Jeffries, including the great Jim Thorpe is on here as well.
This is just a taste of some of the items, and I appreciate you relaying the story again to me. It's always nice to hear it, and it's good that we're able to share it with a lot of people as well. I know they'll appreciate it.
You know, keeping in mind, we probably have over 100,000 boxing items in the Sports Immortals collection, that Tommy Farmer certainly contributed a great amount towards that 100,000.
Well, I know it's important to you, and it's important to me that we are going to recognize people like Tommy Farmer and Gary Evans and James Armstrong and the other collections you acquired, so their names will live on and they can get recognition for what great sports historians they were before your time.
That's our goal, to perpetuate the memories of sports greats and remember the people that helped us along the way and contributed items to make the Sports Immortals collection the greatest collection on earth.
I hope you enjoyed this video featuring some of the incredible boxing items from the Sports Immortals collection. Be sure to hit like below the video and subscribe to our channel. And if you liked it, please tell your friends about us, because we have so many more videos to share with you.
And check us out on TikTok and Instagram.